my friend. How's it? Today we're going to be talking about little bitty key vocabulary words that'll help you move along in songwriting. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. My name's Wago Howard. I teach music in Hilo, Hawaii. If you're looking for online lessons abroad, you can check me out at bigislandtinyfootprint.com. It's my website. Sign up for lessons if you want to. They're 30 minutes. Have fun. Other than that, we're doing all sorts of stuff on this channel, looking to expand 2024, 2025. If you have suggestions, throw them in the comments section. Otherwise, today, if you have a question about anything music related, please ask away. We'll ask the community here. If we can't come up with it, I will ask one of my teachers, and I will find out the answer to it. All right, here we are. As you can see, I've got the board up behind us. I don't want to waste anybody's time today, so if you have questions about songs you're writing and you're kind of stuck, this is a great opportunity to use this to find out what comes next. So, first thing I like to do when talking about the circle of fifths is draw that circle. When you get markers that work, it's a lot easier. I'm going to use purple so it shows up. Ah, wunderbar. So the circle itself, as you can see, I'm not an artist. I like to go up at 12 o'clock and put the C. For me, this gives me a home base. At noon, I've got the one key that has no sharps and flats. So when I write it out, I have C, D, E, F, G, A, B. I personally don't write the eighth, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, because when you get to the eighth mark, that means that you've already said that one. Our C is the one. It's also the eight. Our four is a major, and our five is a major. And if you have done a little bit of history, world abroad, or like numbers or math, we'll see these as being Roman numerals. I, V, V. 1, 4, 5. In chordal analysis, this is generally what we use. I'm going to go ahead and draw a minor second here and a minor third, and the reason why is we want to talk about tonality, or something called seniority. Every single one of these keys can be tonicized, meaning the one in the key of C major is a C major. That C major is clearly having a C, E, and G as its triad. The reason why we learn notes is to know what three notes fit together in 5 fashions. They're called seniorities. One makes you feel really happy, and it has a very majory sound. If we take this guitar here and we were to play just a C major, we have the feeling that kind of makes you feel happy. Almost all major chords have that. However, if music was all just majors, it would kind of be, hey Viv, how you doing? Tell you what, I've got a link for anybody who wants to watch this. I'm going to throw it in the comment section below. I just posted it on my community section on this same channel. It's to a link for a song that I think you'll really enjoy. It's by Viv. Check it out. So what we're doing here is if all the chords inside of here, C major, D major, E major, F major, G major, A major, B major, if they were all major, it would be super boring. Life's not like that. There's ups and downs. There's these melodic feelings that we have major and minor. So we express ourselves that way. The way that we've figured it out in the Western era is it's a series of intervals that arranged make a whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. With those 7 diatonic notes, these 7 right here, we use the triads to express ourselves. On a guitar, when I play these particular notes, they generate the C, E, and G. No matter what instrument, like this baritone ukulele, same as the top here, if I were to play that same C, I would be using a combination of C, E, and G. Even when I'm playing an instrument that doesn't have multi-tones, which means you could take these triads and stack them so they produce a sound that is rich and full, basically meaning the notes that we use are wavelengths. When those wavelengths have a peak and a trough, if you blend other wavelengths with it, it sounds pleasing, or it sounds scary, builds tension. So we're going to talk about that through the eyes of C, and then we're going to write a little song. I'm going to take a couple questions here and see if anybody has any questions about what they're doing, and then maybe I could help you move along, or look at different ideas. Something that we will get into in further explanation of this when we do these Tuesdays is secondary dominance, how to use secondary dominance and to modulate into other keys, and or just how to be a part of hearing what another key could sound like. So maybe the song you're playing is in the key of D, and you're singing and it's a little too high, but rather than moving a capo, you just want to move the idea of the song. We're going to show you how to do that as well. So Without further delay, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then C again represents all of our notation. I'm going to put the minors in the lowercase, as you can see, by the lowercase 2, lowercase 3, and then the lowercase 6. And then I'm also going to put this 7th in a lowercase. It just means this. When I play a C major, I've got the notes of C, E, and G. 1, 3, and then 5. If I wanted to make another chord, let's say like a C6, I would add the note that is the 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hence, when you play any chord, like on the guitar, a C major, and you add that one note that's right above it, the A note, you're giving the relative major its relative minor tone, which generally changes it. A G6, it sounds like an E minor. So when we play these different notes, we use them in lieu of other things. But those are 7th chords. We'll get into that later. The concept behind this is when we read notation and we're on the treble clef, if those of you who are reading this haven't seen this before, the reason why the treble clef is drawn like this is when we get rid of the treble clef, it reveals the key. This is G. So when we draw a treble clef, this is the G line. Hence, you now have a foundation of where all the other notes are because of this. C major has no sharps and flats. On the treble clef, the bottom note happens to be a C. We skip the D space. We play the bottom line of the treble clef, which is an E. Then we go past the F line, and because there are no sharps and flats, we know none of these have the signature sharp, which makes a note higher, or the signature flat, which makes the key lower. So, what we do is we analyze most of the things that we move through with these notations. If you do not see a sharp or a flat, that means that the note itself is one of these. A natural. That just means I'm a little lazy. I don't want to draw naturals on all these notes. So what we do is we just get rid of those naturals and know that anything that doesn't have a sharp or a flat is a natural. Hence, when we go through these, we don't have to use these different things to change tone when moving, because every time we read this C, it will always be a C major. Those are the notes of C, E, and G. At any point, if I were to offer a flat in front of any note, like the third here, I would have flattened that note from being an E down a half step. Well, when you flatten the median in the triad, 1, 2, 3, you get a minor. Hence, when we play C major, this is a 1, 3, 5. When you play a C minor, it is a 1 flat 3, 5. If you were to play a diminished, which is always going to be the 7th in a minor key, we'll explain what it is in a, I'm sorry, that's incorrect. I was thinking at the same time. It will always be a diminished in a major key. We will explain what the minor is in relativity to the 3 major, that's a bad word choice, the 3 predominant minor scales: natural minor, melodic minor, and harmonic minor. When going through all these resources, we find that the B diminished in the key of C has Butterfingers. Has the diminished sign. It's a little circle. When we go through here, we would notice that this chord is now a diminished chord. The only other chords that would have besides this would be something called a half diminished, where you put a little slash through it, and we'll explain what that is at a future time too, but I just want to predominantly talk about the major, minor, diminished, and then the augmented. An augmented keeps a natural 3, and then it sharpens the 5. When we do that, it gives a feeling of dissonance from the 1 to 5, no longer being a perfect 5th, and now goes to the minor 6th, or it's going to be that augmented 5th. That notation in the key of C would do this. Whenever you're putting the sharp or the flat or the natural to go back to a note after being in a measure, you would change these. They are called accidentals. Oops, daisy. They're called accidentals. All you're going to do is put those in where they correlate. Now, moving through the circle of fifths so we could just get through the idea of how to use key explanations. When I say spell C major, we say C major has no sharps and flats. It also has a relative minor, which is the 6th. Hence, diatonic scale. When you have C and A minor, they share the key signature of no sharps and no flats. Therefore, what we want to do is we want to be able to take these ideas and put them through songs. I understand that when you're playing just songs that are 1, 4, and 5, if you understand this concept, we're just simply playing C major. What is our 4 chord? It's an F. What's our 5 chord? It's a G. So you can see how a lot of music is just these. Well, you can also play F majors, relative minor, D minor. Why? Use our brains here. Picture outside the key. F major has one flat. F, G, A, B flat, C, D. So D is going to be the D minor. If I did... There's a little variation, but using that D minor or an F6 chord really changes the ambiance. And it adds one little special note that you can play with. These are just little tools to have. When we're learning how to play these, we also want to learn how to play them and look at the staff when we're learning this. Just for the fact is, you will write a song out there, you're going to put like a little melody over it, or a flute part, or a mandolin part. And being able to play with other people would be great to give them a chart, and then maybe have your music published, and then have this as a resource. It really is fun too when you start learning the expectations of what a D is, skipping the E line, playing the F, skipping the G line, and doing this. Again, if we played a 1-3-5 and now we're not doing C major, but we're moving and shifting over our triads, we're going to move that from the C, E, G, 1-3-5, now to the 2, 4, and the 6. Even though we're in the second position, we are tonicifying or making that one our lead tone. Now you could change that to a D major, but a D major would have a natural 3, not a flat 3. So in the key of C major, no sharps and flats, it's not necessary for me to put a flat anywhere because the F natural is already the minor third of D major. Hence, if we were to go to the key of D major, making it the 1, we would have to raise that mediant and then make it an F sharp. Because when we go to a different key, they have different sharps and flats. So being able to see this, I'd like to just talk about the next key, and then we're going to kind of subside the circle fifths and save a little bit more of it for the next session. When we do this, I like to use my hands up top. Yeah, if you're at home and you're watching with me, try these as well. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then C. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, 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 do. They're the same note. So we really were working with 7. Get rid of the 6 and the 7. We're not even going to talk about right now. Take these and get rid of our 2 and 4 finger. If you play the piano, you will notice that when you play, this is a great way to start understanding triads. C, E, G. When we play these on both hands and we move it up in the key of C, no sharps and flats on all the white keys, it progressively goes up the keyboard. Hence, we're raising sharply. If you go down, we are falling flatly. When we put the markings around here, the circle fifth starts to shine, and this is how you'll know how to spell a key. When we spell the key of G major, there is one sharp. That first sharp is going to be an F sharp. And here's why. What's the note right in front of G? Oh. You would want to say F, but literally and physically, there are not just 7 notes, there are actually 12, 13 if you count the octave. But what we call this scale is, remember, diatonic. A diatonic is going to be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and then 8 if you want to. And then the other one is called chromatic. When we teach out of scales, we teach how to do diatonic because for some reason it's much easier to understand the correlation between intervals being a whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. And then it returns to the P8, the octave. The other perfect unions are the 4. So when we play our A in the key of E and the B in the key of E. We learn how to do this on every single string, on every single instrument, and then we move horizontally utilizing finger patterns. We're going to get into my practice and how I talk about these muscle building exercises called spider exercises, and then another one which shows you finger relationship and being able to move back and forth so you could then go up the fretboard and bar for the same type of chord. The idea behind this is, if you can go C, D, E, F, and G, you know now that the circle fifths is the G. G has one sharp, and that first sharp is the note right before it. So what I want to do is I just want to throw that G onto the fret, onto the circle here, and show us that when we go 5 away, we get our first key, which now we alter our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but it stays the same. We're going to throw our G up here, have an A minor, B minor, C major, D major, E minor, which is the relative minor, meaning all the notes inside G major and all the notes inside E minor are the same. They share a key signature. G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp. Now with that first sharp, we can have the right spelling of an F sharp diminished. So when you learn this on any instrument, no matter what it is, let's play with this. For those of you who play woodwinds out there, I just picked up a clarinet. I'm going to need some pointers. Not good at it at all. But I learned all the notes. Still working with the altissimos. Could really use some help. As far as G major here, I'll play through the eyes of G major on a sax. If I were to play this F sharp right here as an F natural like this, it would sound like a mode we call mixolydian. We're not even talking about scales and modes right now, but I want you to hear the difference between that one note, the note that's in G major. If I didn't play the F sharp, it would just be an F natural. Well, that's the key of C major. I'm not looking for C major. We're looking for G. Hear the difference? What I just expressed was a do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. However, the 7 that I gave was not the sharp, it was an F natural. So if I was looking for the key of G, G, A, B, C, D, and I were to play not an F sharp, but an F natural, that would give me a chord called a G7 or a G dominant 7 because we're not utilizing the note that's actually in the key. Hence, the chromatic scale gives us the notes that are in betwixt. If you're still with me, and we're reading this here, a piano goes all the way. This exhibits doing minor seconds or half steps. My practice that I teach for people young and old, new at it, or longtime players, is to be able to play individual fingers on the individual frets. If you don't have frets, practice the same minor second concept. We do it in multitudes of different rhythms for this hand, but as far as our notation up here, it allows us to just effortlessly play the frets, get a little bit better with muscle memory, and then be able to move up and down the fretboard. Well, if you were to do this up the fretboard as we were describing, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, and do, that's a 7-note diatonic. But if you were to do every note, that gives you the chromatic scale. Hence, the only 2 notes that are found on a piano and on every instrument in the Western ear is going to be an E to an F, the 3 to the 4 in a major scale. Remember C major, use our brain here, C, D, E, F, E, F. It's a half step. When we go to the piano, there is not a black key in betwixt those 2 notes, nor is there one between the B and the C. Therefore, when we go through this nonsense, we have to account for that. If we're in the key of G major, and we're showing you that a 7 has a natural F rather than this, that would make putting this back, utilizing the key signature of the 1 sharp and the key of G, that would make this G a G major 7. And that feeling of a G major 7 is completely different the way you play it. G major is consistently, say it with me now, G, B, and D. So when we play a G major, no matter how we play that G major, in any inversion, it's always going to have those 3 characteristic notes. If we were to play the G major and move one of the G's down a half step to its F sharp, we would utilize the concept of a G major 7. Moving that down from the F major 7 to the minor 7, it makes it a dominant. So we get a G dominant 7. And you'll notice that when we're playing like bluegrass, the C7 is generally a part of it, the G7, D7. Why? That's a real funky way to play that mixolydian mode. And we'll talk about that in a later. I want to keep going with the circle fifths here just so you could see it in its true representation. What I'm doing right now is something you should sit down with a pen and paper and do every day until you got it. When you do that and you got the circle of fists, everything else opens up. I did not quite understand this until I learned multiple different ways. And also, go online. Don't just watch this. Go online and watch everybody's explanation of the circle fifths. What you'll find out, there are generalities. There are things that are right. There are things that are wrong. Such is life. Okay! And then the other major clef, just to talk about it, when we have a staff like this, and we put the treble clef on it, marking bars, so we can end our measure, putting the clef on then. And then let's say our next one. What's the next key? G, A, B, C, D. D major has two sharps. One of them is F sharp. The next one is the note right before it. Well, what's in between D and C? C sharp or D flat. The enharmonic notes that are the same. So when we see G goes to G sharp or A flat, A goes to A sharp or B flat, C goes to C sharp or D flat, D goes to D sharp or E flat, and then there is no F flat. But there is. F flat is E. There is no E sharp, but there is. It's an F natural. When we go through the concept of seeing that that's our half step, and that this is our half step, B sharp is a C. C flat is a B. Knowing this, let's go write the D, and then go through here and say D's are 1, E minors are 2, the F from G major stays with us, and then we're going to move through to the G major as our major fourth. Major fifth is the A, and then our minor is going to be the relative minor, a B minor. Now in jazz, as you saw, or chord charts that you might read, real book, fake book, you saw how I wrote a triangle in between that G and the 7, G major 7. You can also see this chord written as a Madge, G major 7. I like to do the triangles. They represent a 1, 3, 5, and as we already know, that's what makes up a triad. So seeing that, the minor version of that is just a negative. If you ever see me write in lowercase letter or put a little negative on here, that means it's its minor equivalence. The next note, as we know, is our new note, the C sharp. And it must be effectively the C sharp, or else we would not have that Tito, that half step resolution that we so crave. When we go through the tonic, the root, we pass the subtonic, which is right next to it. Beep, beep, beep. We get to our median. Now, I've already said the word. The median just means in the middle. It's going to have the choice of this. The mediate's function is to determine whether it is major or it is minor. Meaning, when you use the mediate, you are going to be specifying the seniority, whether it's a major or minor. Up here we have major, minor, minor, major. The next one here is going to be the sub-dominant, because the 5 is the dominant. That's where all the notes want to go. Every single one of them. It feels that. If you play something and it doesn't have the 5th in there, the air naturally creates it. You are always going to want to hear this go here and then find a resolution. If you listen to Renaissance music or something that has choral movements, it's very plagal. It has like a very distinct cadence that wraps up in a certain way, and it always has the same feeling. When we move through like a B minor, that's our relative minor, all the notes in D major are all the notes in B minor. Therefore, when we see our treble clef, or, as I aforementioned, I don't know why I drew those, as I aforementioned, the bass clef can have 5. When we have 2 staff and they're directly above, we go to the F note. Now, just like the treble clef, when you got rid of the top part, you found out that the treble clef's in the key of G. Well, when you see this, you can draw 2 lines and remind yourself it's the F clef. So when we have an F here, the notes would move up. F, G, A, B. Just so happens that line that's right above the B on the bass clef is the line for the C on the treble clef. Although there's a huge gap, there aren't any notes in betwixt. There are only those. So that gives you space so you can see. There will be other ledger lines which go down, and you will recognize that that's an E right below it. But the idea is that E off of the treble line is also this note. It's an easier way to read the treble line just in case you do not have the bass line. I know that's a lot of information. However, when we move up and find all of our notes that we can play are absolutely on this line, we find ourselves getting to the point where our explanation of this, the circle of fifths, includes 2 sharps. D major has 2 sharps. D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D. So when we play it on any instrument, D major, E minor, F sharp minor, G major, A major, B minor. You could play like an A7 for the C sharp diminished. You could also play G. You could play its aug or its flat. and then play up the notes like you're playing like a D major right here, but split your fingers back behind. I personally enjoy playing the C sharp with one finger on the pointing finger on the A, or on a guitar. On the second finger is going to be on that D there, all the way up top with our third finger, ring finger, to play the B, also at the 5th fret, and then wrap that pinky around to play the note in between, and don't play the outside E's. And you hear that T-do resolves right to D major. So the concept is we want to be able to see notes that are on the treble clef and bass clef. When you have a treble clef that is connected to a bass clef via a double bar line, you have created something called the grand staff. It took one staff and another staff and added them so you could do 2 parts at once. Sometimes you'll see brackets on the sides. That just means that that's part of the same section. Sometimes if you see double parallel brackets, something like this on the outside of that, that means that you'll be playing that section alone. It won't be a double hand thing. That means it's written for 2 parts. I know it's a lot of information, but these are things you could go back and watch on. Let's complete this circle of fifths and the name and explanation of all the tones. After the dominant, we have the sub-mediant. This takes a little bit of a time to explain, so I'm going to explain it in another episode. It relatively is just going to be talking about how when you change your notes from one half of the feeling of the 7 notes, this one becomes the median of other notes. We'll explain it through the eyes of what we consider the major 6 and the minor 6, the A flat. And then my favorite, the lending or the leading. I said lending, lending or leading tone. What this means is you could use it as an individual note to go somewhere, T-do, as resolution, or you could use it as a chord to modulate to another key. And please stick around for these other ideas and these lessons coming up on the next Tuesdays to learn about subdominants and learn about submedians and then leading tones to start spicing up your grooves. All right, and then we're gonna just take these out. I hope you memorize this. We can leave. What's 5 notes from D? D, E, F, G. You guessed it, A. So when we go to A now has 3 sharps. The note right before A is G, so make it a sharp. That's in between, so that's a G sharp. When we go here, we need to find these notes. So where are we? We've got our F sharp, we've got our C sharp. Rather than putting sharps all around this thing, we try to keep them centralized. The form we do is we use the G space that's right above our top. It helps you recognize F, G, right? Notes of the treble clef. When we move through the circle fifths, what comes after A? A major, B minor, C sharp minor, D major, E major, F sharp minor, G sharp diminished, A. When we go up 5 notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we get E. E has 4 sharps. When we add that next sharp on, what's the next sharp right before E? Well, it would have been D. A, B, C, D, E. So when we find ourselves looking here, the next one we do is right there on the line, the D line, second line from the top. When we go through the process of seeing all these, we go around the circle fifths, and this is what it looks like. Every time we go up 5 notes, C to G, G to D, D to A to E, E to B, B to F sharp, and then F sharp to C sharp having 7 sharps, C sharp, D sharp, E sharp, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, B sharp, C sharp. When we play C major, the idea behind what I practice and teach is called the teeter-totters. Spider exercises are just simple orientation of your fingers, whether you're playing finger style or you're using a pick, using alternating picking, economical picking. It's a great way to build muscles. As far as the teeter-totters, those are the ones like this. If you can play a C major like this and you play it with the second fingering, move it up a half step, use a finger as a bar, you now are your capo. C sharp major to D sharp minor, and then to E sharp minor is an F minor. You already know these chords. So what I behoove most of my students to do is once you learn the chords, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, bar the first fret like you would a capo and try and use that in your secondary fingerings. And what you'll find is you will become more efficient with bar chords. B-A-R-R-E comes from the French word bar. And you will become more efficient at seeing the fretboard as being just something that moves. I appreciate you. Aloha. So what we want to do is we want to put together a source of information that you can take these tools and vocabulary, put them in your tool bag, and when you're writing music or talking amongst others, you can absolutely use this to your advantage. So going around here, the one thing I didn't do was show how to go through the different sharps here. So we're just going to do that. They keep going up. We added on each one of these. Every time we go through here, we add the note. So we have an F, we have a C, we have a G, we have a D. Well, in the next key, after that, what's right before our B? What's the note right before B? You guessed it, A, A, B. So when we go here, we find the A line. Where's the A line? We can go all the way up here and hit the top one, or we could go all the way down here and hit the low one. Either one. Mostly, you're going to go through the process of seeing this through the eyes of learning scales. So when you start writing this, I would suggest doing just this, writing out your lines, finding your first sharp, finding your second sharp, and working on just G major and D major, adding them on significantly. You will find yourself being able to play in the key of C sharp. Now for the opposite of this, here's how I teach all of my students regardless of what level they're at. 5-year-olds can understand the circle fifth for sure. It's a hand thing and lots of laughing and fun. So here we go. If we have our treble clef right here, which is the same as this, I'm not doing a bass clef, the opposite of this, sharps, over here is the circle of fifths. When we do the circle of fifths, we go to the right, yeah, like that. When we do the circle the other way, we call that the flat side, and we do it as such. We draw our line this way, and we go a circle of force. So, the notes that we get out of this are F, B flat, we have E flat. Do you see it? F, G, A, B, B, C, D, E, E, F, G, A. You got it. A, B, C, D, D, E, F, G, G, A, B, C. C flat has 7 flats. C flat, D flat, E flat, F flat, G flat, A flat, B flat, C flat. You don't have to really know what that means in the beginning. You just say it. Excellent lesson. Have to get back. Oh, word. Have fun at work. I hope you have a great day. Aloha, Viv. The idea is when you're playing through these concepts, 7 sharps, 7 flats, you don't really need to know what the key of blah, blah, blah is to just start practicing it. Find your instrument, and if you're not using an instrument and you're using your voice, great. I just picked up the clarinet. Not too great at it, but I could get sound out. Open hold phrasings are interesting for me. So I understand how to get notes out. I could feel the scales. I've already worked on the chromatic, so using all the notes, the fingering super hard. Any clarinet players out there, please give me some tips. And that's a B flat, so this would be an F scale, I guess. So it is possible if you play a couple woodwinds, because it's really hard to get the armature, to just pick up another woodwind and go for it. So if anybody has hey Tom, how you doing? If anybody has a clarinet, please give me some tips. I've put about 5 hours in on this, learning scales and really annoying my dogs and my wife. I do apologize for that. However, clarinet or just playing a new instrument is a great way to broaden your horizons, learn a new thing, and you can meet other people that play these and have fun with a different group. So going through the concept of here, here's the last thing that I want to show you. When you play a flat on the middle line, because we know this is our G, get rid of the treble clef, you see the lowercase g right there, G, A, B. When you have a B flat, that is your first flat in the key of F. Hence, the flats kind of spell out for you what the next note is going to be. If we've got an F, B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat. Well, the key of F has one flat. That flat is B flat. F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E, F. When we go to B flat, it has 2 flats. One of them is B flat, and then the next one is E flat. So when we say B flat, C, D, E flat, F, G, A, B flat. That's how we do our spellings. Now, if that doesn't make sense to you, write them down. Write C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, C sharp, D sharp, B sharp, F sharp, G sharp, or just write out C, D, E, F, G like, I don't know, 47 times. And then, or 144. No, don't do that. Go through the process of just doing each individual one. But don't go crazy. Start simple. Start with C major. No sharps, no flats. Here's one of the beautiful things that I've either learned, come up with, somebody showed me. Don't know how I remember figuring this out. I had to have been shown by somebody. But this is the way I learned what notes are in the flats. Once we've already done the hard part and learned one side, the sharps, like B has 5 sharps. When we say that, we know one of the sharps is F sharp, one of the sharps is C sharp, one of the sharps is D sharp, one of the sharps is D sharp, and the last one before B, A, B, C, is A sharp. These 5 are the sharps. If we had 6 sharps, we would just add 1 more. That's how the circle of sharps works. Circle fifths. The other way, circle fourths. Here's how I remember. How many notes are there in a diatonic scale? 7. How many sharps are there in the key of G? There is 1. That first sharps F. Why? It's right before G. G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. So, in the key of G, there's 1 sharp. Get rid of that sharp from this diatonic scale, and then think of its flattened version, or its sharpened, depending. But here we go. G major, 7 notes. G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. Get rid of that 1 F sharp, and then go down a half step. G flat has 6 flats. Mind blown. Mind blowing. Really quick. How many sharps and flats do you remember does E have? Well, here we go. C has none. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. C, D, E, F, G. G adds 1 sharp. That first sharp is F sharp. G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. When we go up 5, G, A, B, C, D. D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D. The one right before it. So now D, E, F sharp, G, A. A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A. A, B, C, D, E. E has 4 sharps now. F, C, G, and then we add D. So when we say E major, F sharp minor, G sharp minor, A major, B major, what is this one? C sharp minor. Yeah, you got it. And then the 7th one is going to be the new addition of the sharp. D sharp diminished. That's how we use the circle fifths, by naming and then understanding what the role of that single note is in correlation to the 3 notes it's playing with. When we play G, B, D, we get a major. A, C, E minor. B, D, F sharp. If we don't play that F sharp in the key of G, we get a diminished. B diminished is only found in the key of C major / A minor. Ta-da! So when we go through the process of seeing these, if E has 4 sharps, how many notes are there in a diatonic scale? You guessed it, 7. Take away 4 of those sharps. How many flats are there in the key of E flat? There are 3. Boop, boop, boop. B flat, E flat, A flat. That's how we use the circle fifths. We're going to touch back on this on multiple different Tuesdays. However, I want to get into a little songwriting. If you're here, there, everywhere, take a little tip. Look these up: tonic, subtonic, mediant, subdominant, dominant, submediant, and leading lending tone. And then we use this to do this. To keep it simple, let's just play in the key of C. I'm going to put this up on the top here. We're going to put key of C. Well, it could also be key of A minor. We're going to start it off by putting in 4/4, also known as common time, because it's the most subjective with all these. I'm going to put 1 bar, which represents my first measure, and I'm going to say, how do I want this song to feel? Well, I don't want to get too far away from it. A good way to do this is to pick up a guitar, a saxophone, a mandolin, a banjo, or just use your voice to try to sing something out loud. If you have a predisposed idea, cool. If not, I'm just going to strum the C major chord and see what comes up. A good thing to do is see that when we played this 1-3-5, if we influence 1-3-5 with any other note, let's say we influenced it with the 2 or a 4, that would be called a sus. It feels like the notes are hanging above our head. So what was our 1? It's a C. What was our minor 2? That's the D. What's our minor 3? There are no sharps and flats. E minor, we have our F major, we've got our G major, A minor, and then our diminished. And the reason why I write it with a lowercase low is because when we spell a B diminished, it has a 1 flat 3 and a flat 5. Any triad that has a flat 3 is considered a minor in tonality. It does have a diminished tonality, and that's just because the function of the intervals aren't major third plus minor third, or minor third plus major third. It's minor third plus minor third plus minor third plus minor third plus minor third. Those equal our diminished and our half diminished. Noise. So in the key of C, we have all these diatonically to choose from. Can you go outside of the key structure? Absolutely. It's just called tonifying or modulating. Here we go. We're going to play a C. How about a C sus? Now, C sus, if we don't say it, it's a C sus 4. In the key of C, we'd have a D, E, G, and we'd add the F. That would give us a feeling of suspense. Next, let's just go with C. It's going to have this back and forth. This one, I'm just going to call, Here, let me get rid of this. I'm going to call this the intro. I-N-T-R-O. Put a little box around it, yay. And then when going through, I'll know this is where I start. How about we play this twice then? Rather than write this all out, I could put a bar down here, and then I could put a parenthesis and 2 bars. That means to repeat this in its entirety. If you didn't want to see it as that little weird function, you could still put the bars here, and then you could write C sus4 again, or you could just put individual. That means to repeat the last thing. But I don't just want to keep repeating C after that, do I? C sus C, C, C. I want actually to repeat the phrasing. Therefore, I am going to use that. Instead of putting 1 line, we have 2. When I see this is my intro here. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put a double bar so I end that phrasing, because the next bar is going to be a different type of concept or feeling. Same thing, but I'm going to call this one the A section. I'm also going to put a bar down here. I'm going to lay out a couple different measures, and I'm writing big. Normally I would write a lot smaller when I'm doing this. Functionality, we're using the C. We haven't really gone to anything else, but let's try using a different chord. Anybody want to call one out if you're watching? We maybe go to the 4 chord, maybe go to the minor chord. We could have a C, starts it off. If we go to the 4 chord, we would have something that kind of moves, because it's very, very common to go to the subdominant rather than giving it the full release for that dominant. When we're moving forward, how about an A minor? One of the things we could do with a minor is you can actually change a little tonality. Another thing we really didn't talk about, which could be covered in this one or another one, it would make sense to cover it in another one, is when you go past your 8, it becomes a 9, then a 10, an 11, and then we move up so we get a 13. And we also can go to the top level and have double octaves, compound octaves, compound fifths, compound fourths, compound eighths. But the truth is, when you're playing a chord that might resemble something like this, what is this? How about, you can name it like 13 separate different ways. I would call this like an E7 flat 9, but there are a multitude of ways to do that. When we look at the majors, you can only have majors that utilize a sus. So what you would have would be chords that have major tonality or seniority. You call them sus chords. You can call them 9s, but one of the things that we talk about is all things have triads. If you have a 9 chord, it quite literally is the triad bass, and then you put the 9 in there. It's called an add 9 if you just add it. However, if you put the 9 in there and you don't call it a C add 9, you need to put that dominant 7th in. If you remember, B is found naturally in C. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. So what's the flat 7? The minor 7? We have a B flat. So if we were to play a C7, and then we were to utilize that 9 up top, we would be sharing in that 9 chord. And that's a beautiful chord. It's like Ross. Happy trees. So, going through the process, this is what the beginning of this little ditty would sound like. How about 4/4, all downstrokes? Do I have a pick? Yes, I do. That's a good feeling for the beginning. I like how it starts with the sus4, though. Although I'm playing 8th notes, how about just 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1. And then into the verse, the A part. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's as far as we got. I like maybe playing an A7 there. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B. Adding a B over the top would be called an A minor 9. If you were to do that A minor 9, it feels the same as a sus, but we just don't name it as such. We name all minor chords devoid of sus namings. Cool. So how about that? We do the F to F minor 9. You can do an F minor 11 if you want to. The idea is you don't need to keep it the same. If you're trying to go through the process of seeing new chords, there are programs out there that would help you write this. The one that I use a lot is called iReal Pro, but there are a multitude of different ones out there that could help you. The reason why I think iReal Pro is good for the new beginner songwriter is it gives you templates that are already preset, so you can sort of no fail kind of scenario. The learning curve takes about 12 hours until you could fully master all the different functionalities of the buttons. And then it really just relies on that predisposed circle fifths to go through and start writing songs. I've had the program now for about 2 years, and then last year, due to pandemic and just, a little bit more free time, also I got hurt, had a lot of downtime. I wrote close to 3,000 tunes. Not all of them are great. Not all of them are finished. But that's 3,000 experiences I had doing circle fifths, different keys, different alterations, moving in and out, modulations, different time signatures, different keys, different feelings. Okay, the last thing I would like to talk about if we're going through here is how to end a phrasing. This is an intro. This is just a notation. If we were going to have an open-ended cadence, maybe throwing something in like a relative major or a minor, we might be able to do like after the A minor, it feels good to go back to the C. If we're doing the C, we could do maybe possibly G sus. That's a sus4. Resolve it to a G. What's G's relative minor? E. And then maybe end it on a that same C sus4 and then C. Put a double bar at the end because you're showing that it's ending, and then make it really nice and thick. Anytime you end any song at the very end, that double bar is deeper, darker, richer than any other bar that separates your different individual measures or sections. We use these double lines to change between different concepts, between different key signatures, and between different time signature modulations. Lot of information today. Tell you what, this is most of the stuff I wish I would have learned sitting down with my buddies. I was in band. I did choir. It didn't sink in until I started seeing it through the eyes of different instruments. So if you're at the point right now where you're singing and songwriting and you're trying to get through melodies and you don't know what comes next or what key you should be in or what songs have different feelings or foundations, just this one would have the C major as a sus to the C. The verse is a C major to an F to an A minor to an A11 or an A. How about an A9? I really like the A9. And then to a C again, to a G sus. Now we have the option of playing G with the C right here. Play a G major, put down the C. Or do the lower one by putting the C over the top of its major third. I mean, I think that would be a great way to end the song, but we're not doing that there. So one of the things we would try to do is be able to play that C major to the G sus, resolve it to the E minor, and then to the C. What do we have there? C sus4. That's pretty good. How about a different type of style? Randomly, reggae. If we were doing the C. Oh yeah! Really, reggae and almost any other rhythms can be defined by counting 16th notes or 8th notes. This is an 8th note pattern which has a downstroke and a play. Rest, play, rest, play, rest, play, rest, rest, play, yeah, yeah. So when doing... There's a couple things that we could do over the top of that, like actually notate what we did there. There was an end on the end there. I didn't play through all four. When we did this, I actually didn't have all the notes being played there. There are other notations that you could put in here. Like if I didn't want to do this twice, but I wanted to fill the time in the measure, we could put NC for no chords. You could also have made this longer by putting repeats on it. When you see two end caps and then two dots, it just means to repeat. Sometimes in notation, you'll see like a repeat, which means twice, but then it'll go down here and it'll do something like 8 times. Well, that means to do it 8 times. Don't add 8 plus 2. It's just 8 times in its entirety. Anywho, I hope this was really beneficial for those of you who were just kind of eluded by the circle fifths. It took me years Oh, Michael, well, maybe I can start moving it back an hour. Tell you what, I've got a couple students that pop in here right at 10 o'clock, so I have to cut this short right now. However, I had a great time. I think I'm going to end because Michael's here doing an original. Why not? And then we can go to the place of like, this songwriting concept will help to stay inside the diatonic 7. It will also help you to be able to move through different comparable ideas. And do you see how this was kind of written out of nowhere? It grew legs, as it were. And anybody who writes songs, like Mr. Michael Songs, if you can, check out his channel. I'll put a link to that in the comment section as well. And then check out how individual songwriters write their songs. Everybody has a different way. Personally, I write an outline, and then I leave it for a couple months, and when I go back to it, I don't realize that I even wrote that song at that point. If it sounds good and it's fun, then I go and write a melody lead over the top of it. We're going to talk about how to write melodies over progressions and cadences next Tuesday, and I hope that you tune in. I'm going to play out just playing one of my originals. I hope you have a great time today. And remember, whatever you do, keep it classy. Keep it clean. That'd be awesome. Ooh, yeah, da, 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 do, 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 do. Now I've got like, definitely have reggae stuck in my head. How about I'll play my wife's favorite song? Immaculate Saturation is a good one. I put that one out there for the Tiny Desk. Also, go to Michael's channel, Michael Songs, and check out his Tiny Desk application. It was wonderful, wonderful song. And then the community that they have is wonderful as well. A bunch of original songwriters that have different times of going live. If you go on the pages on any of those, you'll find the Conspiracy Theory, Axe and Nacho, a bunch of really cool stuff. All right, here we go. I don't need a pick for this, so I'm just going to table it. Where you gonna go next time? Where you gonna go when you're at the end of your life? Ollie, spend your days out when you're at the end of your life. You can count on me, I'll be there for you to see. At the end of that tunnel, I'll be there. When you're at the end of your line. Oh, that one kind of makes me sad. Sorry to end on a sad note. That one's for my doggy. He's about at the end of his life. This one goes out to Rufus and Ollie and my wife. Bye, y'all. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next Tuesday. Aloha.